Well, all of the colleges were male to begin with, and then when female students were grudgingly allowed to study, the university insisted on
Quer
having
saber se
female-only
homem ou mulher
colleges
podia
built
estudar ali na
further away
Queens,
from
que é
male life
de
to
rainha.
protect the male students from being distracted.
Mas antes só homem podia estudar.
All of
Depois
the
que
colleges,
começou.
all the male colleges have accepted female students now, but there's still 2 female-only colleges that maintain that independence. They have no male students, so I think we're entitled to that. I mean, we're not far from Newnham. You can't see it from the river here, but it's near the mill pond up there, very close. That's where you've got Newnham College, and that's where Rosalind Franklin studied. She was the woman who discovered, she was the first female student at Newnham College, and she discovered she perfected a technique of X-ray photography that allowed her to take photos of very, very tiny strands of DNA. It was Rosalind Franklin who actually discovered DNA, but she died of cancer before she could receive a Nobel Prize. So that prize went to the other 2 scientists, James Watson and Francis Crick, who were studying here, visited here in Cambridge at the time. Have any of you heard of the Eagle Pub in Cambridge?
No.
It's very close to King's College. Supposedly, the 2 scientists, James Watson and Francis Crick, who got the Nobel Prize for DNA, they used to go to that pub and discuss their ideas over a drink. There's a lot of history to the Eagle Pub. I mean, that's where J.R.R. Tolkien would go to visit his friends. The writer, he'd come down to Oxford to meet his friends, and he'd read out part of his book, The Lord of the Rings, to see what they thought. Mind your fingers, don't put your fingers over the side. Please don't put your fingers over the side. Like you came very close to getting them caught.
Well, I don't want to be in the river now, too. The idea of fun.
Not now. Oh, they're practicing their capsizing.
Dragged out. Oh, that looks like fun.
Oh, he looks really cold. He looks really cold.
João, o dedo pra fora.
dedo,
Isa,
o dedo.
põe essa.
Charlie, Charlie. Be careful, Charlie. You're going to elbow
Yeah.
Watch your fingers. You're going to lose your fingers.
Charlie,
I told you.
Charlie.
What's that thing? That clip?
See my finger?
Acho que eles devem estar com um pouco de frio.
Eles estão se jogando para poder sair do... Eles estão se jogando para poder sair do...
Do caiaque.
Por que eles se jogam?
Para poder sair. Eles estão saindo.
Por que tem que jogar? Tem que se jogar
Eu
pra
também não sei, podia sair sem virar, né?
Ai, juro que eu senti frio só de imaginar.
É fria, mas tem que se mais. Dá pra dar um mergulho rápido.
Já tô toda me coçando se eu botar a
Mas
mão.
sacanagem que não é fria.
Não, é fria, mas dá pra mergulhar, né?
Tá longe de ser frio, pô.
Põe a mão, deixa a mão aí.
Não,
é
eu também mergulharia
frio,
se.
Mergulharia?
Naquele caso ali, é muito
frio,
menos
mas não é
frio do que eu
congelante.
imaginava.
Eu tô achando que o troço é congelado.
É, eu pensei que fosse.
A minha mão ficou dormente.
João, põe essa
Abre a
mão
torneira
pra
lá de
dentro.
casa e bota a mão embaixo. mais
A
gelada.
torneira lá de casa não dá pra ficar lavando louça sem esquentar a água.
Here at King's College here. Has anybody here seen The Imitation Game? The film they made last year about Alan Turing, the mathematician. This is where Alan Turing studied in the 1930s at King's College. While he was studying here, he was writing his university papers on his idea of a thought machine. There are many different names for this at the time, an electrical brain, but we now know it as a digital computer. And Turing's most famous for his work he did during the Second World War. He made one of the first ever digital computers that was used to help break part of the German Enigma.
Ah, não, Guilherme não.
Turing never received any credit for his work in his life.
Agora pode estar vindo pra mim?
He wrote one of the first tests for artificial intelligence while he was studying here, the Turing test. That's still used even now, even though he never lived to see anything like it achieved in his own lifetime. It was very fish very fast.
They would be quite a good chat. It would actually be really fun. One of these stories everyone would laugh about.
Now, I don't suppose,
Yes, that
one of the students here at Clare College, one of the students, famous student from here, was a man called Sir Arnold Hall. He was an aircraft engineer back in the 1950s. But back in the 50s, he was head of the British Aircraft Establishment, one of the leading aeronautical research groups in Britain. And Sir Arnold Hall, he's important because he led one of the first ever air crash investigations in history. He was tasked with investigating the mysterious comet disasters in 1954. The Comet jet airliner, that was the world's first passenger jet. That was the beginning of sort of mass commercial aviation. The Comet was like Concorde. It was nearly twice as fast as any of its competing rivals at the time. Can I just ask, has anybody heard of the Nimrod? The RAF Nimrod seaplane?
No.
It's, they stopped using them in 2011. They're retired now. But those Nimrods were originally a Comet, well, a Mark IV Comet. They were changed from passenger planes
João,
into military
põe essa
planes
mão pra dentro, você vai
after their
molhar.
use ran out. Yeah, the Comet is the reason we have circular windows in modern planes. On the Comet, they were square. This gave a much bigger view for the passengers, but it was a terrible flaw. All of the stress of the fuselage of the plane would focus onto the corners of the windows, causing tiny amounts of damage over time that we now know as metal fatigue. It wasn't very well understood at the time. Nowadays we have electron microscopes to find microscopic defects. Back then you relied very much on experience and a large magnifying glass to find cracks that could be just a few millimetres long over an entire plane.
Vai sair nas fotos. Abaixa a mão aí um pouco. Vai, Olavo. Peraí. Peraí, agora vai.
Yeah, did I tell you guys about Winnie the Pooh here? Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah.
This is where the author of Winnie the Pooh, A.A. Milne, studied. He was at Trinity College. And the Red Library up ahead, they still have the original manuscript and sketches of Winnie the Pooh, his original work, still kept there. Along with a lot of other books.
Não.
Winnie the Pooh.
There's about 75,000 books in this library up ahead of my right.
A história eu não sei quem
Some
é o
of the
sim.
books date back to the 9th century.
A história infantil.
There's original folios of all of Shakespeare's plays.
Aí foi onde estudou o autor.
And there's a first edition copy of Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica, the book in which he described how gravity worked, so it was a big deal for the time. And that book actually has Newton's own handwriting, even though it's a printed book. It has his handwriting in the margins for changes he wanted to make to his second edition, as well as putting he put all his titles in pencil on the front cover. He'd been given a lot of awards since he published the book. He'd been made a head mathematics at Cambridge or something. He was head of the Royal Society. He wanted to make sure that was all written on the front of the book. So, yeah. Isaac Newton, he's always remembered as history's greatest scientist, but he never actually called himself a scientist. For one thing, back then, physics didn't exist as we know it now. Newton was actually employed in what was known as the field of... he did what was known as experimental philosophy. And that's what they had as a word for physics back then. And, yeah, he did he came up with the theory of gravity, which of course is very important. Yeah, he also proved that light from the sun wasn't actually pure. He proved that sunlight was made up of all the different colours of the rainbow, all added together. He used this by using, he discovered this by using prisms to split the light up. But as well as that, Newton might have done a lot of scientific stuff, but he did also believe that he did believe in things such as alchemy. He believed it was possible to be able to turn metals such as lead into gold. In fact, he believed, a bit understandably, he believed that one of the best substances for achieving this was the substance quicksilver, which he used very large amounts of. We now know quicksilver as mercury. We also know it's extremely toxic. So apparently for the better part of a year, Isaac Newton went completely mad from the mercury vapor. Literally mad as a hatter. Sorry, have you heard of the phrase, mad as a hatter? You know where it comes from? Sorry? No, it's because of mercury. Back in sort of Victorian times, when they were making top hats, one of the things they used to do to make them more stylish and attractive was you take a rag with mercury and just polish it all over the hat. Mercury would split up into all these tiny little bits, and those bits of mercury would form a perfect sphere, which would act almost like dewdrops, and it would make it look really sparkling and really wonderful. So